I'm Becky, and the number is 170514.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, but mostly guys, we are back for another Philippine monthly call. Remember, if you'd like the show back weekly, call and complain to John at wwdl.net or john at loveme.com. You can send him an email. Tell him to do this more often. So we are back. We are doing the second Wednesday of the month because last Wednesday obviously was 4th of July. Hopefully everyone had a safe and happy 4th of July. So we are up with our live conference call. So if you like, you can call into the conference call line. It is on any girl's profile. You can find the number and the code for that. Or you can watch on loveme.com/live or on any of our social media platforms. We are streaming. If you have any questions, if you're on the website, right above, unmute that. Right above the video streaming on loveme.com/live, there is the send question by instant text box where you can ask your questions if you are watching. Let's see, get back here to all these things, make sure we have people. Remember, on the conference call line, it's either 5-star or *5, one of those things to ask a question, so feel free to. So let us talk about all things Philippine. As you can see here, we've got some wonderful new footage from one of the most recent Davao tours from this year. You see some very lovely girls. If you see the little number on her dress there, she is part of the Miss AFA pageant that we do each and every social in the Philippines. Actually, probably one of the most fun things that they do at the socials is they do the little Miss AFA pageant, and all the girls strut through the play. Here you go, right here. They do their pageant walk, and then they give them either really bad jokes or really terrible pickup lines to use on you guys, and then the guys get to pick the winner, and they give out prizes, candy, flowers, and all that good stuff to the girls, and they get a kick out of it. It's one of the fun things that they do to help break the ice for you guys at the socials in the Philippines. The other thing they do, and they do this immediately as you get to each social, there is always a group of girls waiting outside the social event for you to arrive with all the other guys, and they escort you into the social venue. And as you first walk in with a lovely girl on your arm, they have the music playing, and you start the social by having a first dance with a lovely young lady just like the ones you're seeing on the screen here. So that's kind of a nice way to break the ice, is to have a beautiful young lady on your arm immediately. And after that first dance, the lady that you're dancing with escorts you back to the table that she's sitting at. So you then get to spend time with her and the several other lovely young ladies that are at that table. And from there, you go on a little speed dating adventure, moving from table to table to table, talking to each of the girls and getting to know the different girls at each table, getting their phone numbers, getting their contact information. And that takes roughly about an hour and a half to 2 hours, the first part of the night there. And throughout that point, they have a couple little breaks where they have a buffet dinner and some drinks and things like that. So that way you have a chance to eat and socialize with the ladies. And it's kind of a really nice way, low-key way to speed date. And it's really nice because all the girls there get, you know, about 20 or so minutes to talk with you at each table, and you're with a smaller group of, you know, anywhere from 7 to 10 girls per table, depending on how many guys there are. We like to keep it to about a 8 to 9 per one guy ratio there, so this way you're not too overwhelmed, but at least a little overwhelmed. Meet right there. Meet them here in Davao. There you go. That is actually where I met my beautiful wife. And we have a lovely son now who is 14 months old, and the light of my life and also the terror of my life, because he is now walking, running, and touching everything, which is ever so much fun. Let's see here. Let's check you. All right. Let's see. We got some chat questions. Let's knock these out here. Keep them coming, guys, because I like when you guys control the flow of the show. It's more fun when I answer the stuff you want, as opposed to spend an hour rattling on about whatever I feel like talking about, because you know I don't plan these things out. Let's see. Steve Weitzman, has anyone gotten married live as snowbirds? I'm not entirely sure what you're trying to get at there, Steve. Has anyone got married live as snowbirds? I'm just not entirely sure what you're asking here, Holmes. Try to reword that for me and help me out a little bit. I'll come back to it if you respond again. David, Mr. Greg, is your wife even remotely Americanized? Maybe? No? I'm not entirely positive.
Remotely Americanized.
Yeah, running that out of the speakers there, Mr. Producer Man. No, I don't think so. She's still pretty down to earth. I mean, she's not. My wife was never high maintenance to start with, and I think her biggest gripe on a regular basis with me is I spend too much money on stupid things. You know, we go shopping and she's like, "Oh, this is pretty." I'm like, "Okay, let's get it." And she's like, "No, it's too expensive. You don't need to spend money on that." I'm like, "Oh, okay, but we're still gonna buy it." But yeah, no, she's very down to earth. She's very money conscious. She doesn't like to spend a lot of money or waste money. My wife's a very, you know, long game kind of girl. She's much more concerned with the future and, you know, if we're going to retire to the Philippines, and if we are, we should invest in a nice piece of property now before it gets more expensive. And the city where her family is, Tagum, which is north of Davao, is becoming year after year a much larger city on a regular basis. So, you know, her ultimate goal is that she'd like to see us get a nice piece of land out there that later on we can, you know, build a nice house on for us to retire on, or build some apartments, or, you know, some little mini condos on where we can rent them out, and there can be, you know, stream of money that would essentially pay for the property as we pay it off. Because essentially buying property in the Philippines is not a whole lot different than buying property here. You can get financed through the banks there, through several international banks that are in the Philippines, to buy nice pieces of land, and you can develop them and essentially rent out or, you know, sublease parts of that land to other families that want to build a house but can't afford land. So you let them take a portion of the land, they build their home on it, and then they pay you a monthly rent essentially. Nice thing about it is it's your land, so essentially whatever house they build on it, you technically own. So that's kind of that was a little bit of an interesting revelation that I learned. Let's see here, Steve Weissman. Anyone get married and live in Cebu and live there for the summer, live in the United States for the winter? Oh, okay. Well, Steve, the Philippines has two seasons: the rainy season and the really rainy season. There's kind of no other season. It's about 85 degrees year-round and humid. So there's not a whole lot of other seasons in there. It's warm and humid, or really rainy and humid. So snowbirding really isn't a thing. I know a lot of people, they live here full-time, but they go back there 2 or 3 times a year. But the airfare can definitely rack up if you're snowbirding per se. You know, unless you're really, really like travel savvy and know how to find some amazing deals on a regular basis, or don't particularly care when you go, and just when you find the deal, that's when you're going to go. That is kind of one of the only really ways to do it, to not really kill your budget. I know a lot of guys that have retired that opt to just live there full-time, and every couple of years come back to the States to visit family and things like that. But for the most part, they don't go back and forth the way you're kind of thinking of snowbirding. Like if you live up north and then you come into Arizona for the winter and then go back to Minnesota, I don't particularly see too many people doing that. Most of the people I know, either they live there full time or they don't. So let's see. Back to David's wife Americanized question. I just don't think the Filipino girls really get Americanized. They grow up with our culture to a pretty large extent. Everything there, movie-wise, TV-wise, most of it's in English. They grow up learning English from, you know, kindergarten on. All education there is in English. All the street signs, business signs, menus, everything, restaurants, it's all in English. Nothing is really in their language other than them speaking to each other. So it's definitely, there's definitely some differences versus, you know, Filipino girls getting Americanized versus other cultures coming here and being Americanized. They grew up with our culture essentially their whole life. And a lot of the younger girls there are not that different than girls that you have here. Their fashion, their culture, it's very similar to ours. The main difference is they still have that more traditional family value ingrained into them from childhood. And that's the one thing I see with my wife. You know, for me and my family, if we don't see each other for a couple of weeks or we don't talk for, you know, 2 or 3 weeks, it's not that big a deal. For my wife not to talk to her family for more than like 2 or 3 days is a huge deal. Just an absolutely huge deal. Like, if her mom doesn't call at least every other day, like, she gets worried about them, because that's like unheard of for mom not to want to call and see, you know, her grandson or things like that. So I don't think the Americanized thing is that big a thing with Filipina girls. Let's see here. NLA from YouTube. I'm 69 years old. At what age Filipina girls will I have a chance with? All of them? Pretty much all of them. Anyone over the age, any girl over the age of 18, you're pretty much have a chance with. Over there, age difference means like nothing really. They, you know, 20, 30-year age gaps is the normal for them. You know, my wife's parents are a prime example. My mother-in-law is 23 years younger than my father-in-law, and they're Filipino. So, you know, that age gap is very normal there. Again, my wife and I are kind of the exception to the rule. We're only 5 years apart, and when we first met and started talking, she was actually concerned that I was too young and not old enough and not mature enough for marriage and a real relationship. Like, that was a legitimate concern she had, and she flat out told me that after like the second or third time we talked. So, you know, and I can give you example after example. You know, most of the Filipina girls that my wife has become friends with here, their husbands are 20 to 30 years older than me, minimum. So when we go to one of the other girls' houses for, you know, like a lunch or a dinner or something, or have a little gathering, I'm the youngest guy in the room by a good chunk of age. And, you know, it's, again, they all make jokes about it too, that I'm the young, like, my wife and I, I'm not old enough for my wife yet. So you really don't need to worry too much about the age thing. In the Philippines, that means nothing. Let's see here. Bob, I can see girls' videos on your phone or only on a computer. I have trouble seeing the videos on my phone and I don't have a computer. Our website is pretty mobile friendly, so you shouldn't have too much of an issue. If you're using any remotely new smartphone within the last couple of years, you should be good to go. You can always call the office here and talk to the tech guys. They might be able to walk you through it. I remember when, you know, I was here on a daily basis, we had guys call in. Usually we could figure out what the problem was, a software update or downloading a third-party video app so that you could get the videos to play through that. But you can give the office a call. They'll help you figure that one out. Steve, the only thing that really makes sense in terms of snowbirding is to spend part of the year in Baguio, get a little relief from the... Dude, Baguio is so cold. It snows in Baguio City. My wife has family there. We're actually going to go there for the first 2 days of our trip for Christmas. We're going to Manila for a day, Baguio for 2 days, and then down to Davao for 7 days. But yeah, no, it's really cold there. It snows because it's very high up in elevation, and it gets really cold there. So careful about that. Go there first and see before you think you might want to live there. It's definitely a cold place. It's very different than the rest of the country, like super different. Bob, repeat the info about purchasing land and building a home, etc. Okay, so buying land in the Philippines is just like buying land here. If you have the cash, you can make an all-cash purchase, bank transfer, wire transfer, make the deal, you own the property. Takes a little longer to get the titling done, and if you're not an actual Filipino resident, if you don't have citizenship, you can't own it. But your wife, who would be a citizen, she can own the property. So most of the guys that I met there that own land or have homes there, 90% of them, all the property and all that stuff, it's in their wife's name, because they really don't particularly want to go through all the hassle of becoming a citizen. They live there full time, you know, they've paid the fees and all there to basically essentially be a long-term visitor. And you can look up all the information on, you know, living in the Philippines full time. There's some paperwork you submit. Essentially, you get granted a residency visa is what it is. So a lot of them don't purchase the land in their name. They purchase it in their wife's name or in, you know, their brother-in-law's name or something like that. And then you own the land, or if you don't want to pay up front, you can get financing through any bank. Again, being an American citizen, they pull our credit scores here. They can finance you through American banks, and they work with multiple banks there. You know, the Singapore bank is one of the biggest ones in Asia. They do a ton of financing of land in the Philippines. They have several offices all throughout the major cities in the Philippines that you can use. So it's not very different than what we're used to purchasing land here. And the nice thing too is I've done some of the research, you know, where my wife's family's from. I can get an acre of land for like $8 grand. I mean, a full-on acre of land right next to the major city of Tagum. All the water and all the electrical is actually there on some of the properties we were looking at. You know, less than 10 grand for an acre. That's pretty spectacular. Some of the places you will have to actually bring in the water, bring in the electricity and all that stuff, which is very cheap to do. But you know, there's definitely ways to do it. You can look it up. There's tons of info online. It's how I learned most of it. I just Googled it. Let's see, Rohed. Filipinas are great in my opinion. I'd avoid taking them back to the US, UK, or Australia though. I don't see why not. They're not really that interested in our culture, to be honest with you. Most of the Filipino girls that I've met through my wife here that she's friends with, they kind of don't care that much about our culture. They're not overly interested in it. They're married, they're interested in their husband, their family, and their friends. So that's really it. They don't particularly care a whole lot about our politics. They're not overly concerned with, you know, how other women act here. You know, the Filipino girls, if you can see on the video, they dress very, very sexy, but on the flip side, they're very, very modest girls. They're not interested in sleeping around. They are not looking to spend time with guys for no reason. If they're spending time with the guys because they see that there could potentially be a real future. They have very little interest in playing games. They're not overly interested in your money. One of my wife's other biggest gripes is wanting to work because she wants to earn her own money, so that this way when her family needs something, she's not asking me to send them money, which I don't particularly mind doing, because honestly, when they need something, most of the times it costs me like 30 or 40 bucks to send money for something they need to take care of for this, that, or the other thing. So it's not like a huge deal when you help out the family. But they're very independent. They want to work, they want to earn their own income. You know, my wife is very excited because she finally got her driver's permit, and I've been out the last couple of weekends teaching her how to drive, and you know, she's doing a fantastic job and at learning to drive, and she's very excited about it because, you know, they want that level of independence, because where they're from, you hop in a scooter cab and you go wherever you want. It costs them next to nothing. Here, you know, my wife's has tried Uber before and just very much dislikes it. So, you know, and it's not like she can just walk to the store, because the closest store is like probably about 2 or 3 miles away from our house, and you have to cross the freeway to get to it. So, you know, it's not like what they're used to, where everything's kind of right there, or the neighbor who has essentially the little store in front of their house where you can buy your vegetables or your gallon of milk, or, you know, the little knickknacks that you need. That for here we gotta, you know, sometimes drive a mile or so down the road to get to a CVS or a Walgreens or something like that to get those things. So, you know, it's not that big a deal. But, you know, so they have a little less independence here than they do back home. So they definitely want to learn how to drive. They want to be able to go and do things and not have to depend on you for everything. So let's see here. So let's see. Jose D from Facebook. Where are these videos located? Well, this video, it's a fantastic drone video. This is Bohol. This is outside of Cebu. It's an island off of where Cebu is. Is this Bohol? Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, so this is Cebu. This is the island hopping tour that they do during the Cebu tour. They visit the island of Bohol, which has the tiniest little monkeys, and the chocolate hills, which is those little like chocolate scoop hills that you just saw a moment ago. This is the island hopping, where you ride on these quasi-esque catamaran boats and go from the little island to little island, and it's very beautiful. They scuba dive, you can rent jet skis and all kinds of fun stuff. As you can see, these guys, they're all jumping off to go snorkeling now. Obviously parasailing, which is fantastically fun, and that guy's gone. Let's see, so that's where that stuff is. Buddy from Facebook. When you go there, can you bring a girl back with you if you want to get married? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You cannot bring them back immediately. You do have to apply for what's called a K1 fiance visa. If you sign up for an AFA tour, we actually send you a K1 fiance visa book on exactly how to do it. So you can actually do it yourself. It's not that hard. You can Google search it. There's a million like websites on the internet on how to do it by yourself and not pay a lawyer. If you're like me and you just don't want to risk it and don't want to have to do things more than once, just get an immigration lawyer. We work with some amazing immigration lawyers. You can talk to Liz here. She can help get you set up with the immigration lawyers that we work with, and we get a fantastic discount through them, so you'll definitely pay less if you go through AFA to get that. But we can help you there. But it is going to be a fiance visa, K1 fiance visa, to bring a lady here. Takes anywhere from 3 to 6 months on average for her to be able to come to the US. So it's not the cheapest route, but if you're going to do this, be prepared to invest in the K1 visa, be prepared to invest in the girl's airfare, because she will have to go to Manila for a minimum of 10 days to do her medical and her interviews. And unless she has family there, you're putting her up in a hotel. And it is not a tourist city, it is a business city, and hotels are more expensive than in the other cities because it is Embassy Row where they're going to be. So it's not hard though. I did it myself. I used a lawyer for one part, did the second part myself, and it was not hard. So let's see here. NLA from YouTube. Is medical health care available for foreigners? I'm an American. Yes. And it's dirt cheap. My wife's father actually had a stroke not too long ago. He's an older gentleman. I paid the entire medical bill for him to have emergency services to a hospital, to one of the good hospitals where they live, not the public hospital, but the actual private hospital. In the ambulance ride, the MRI, the 7 days they had him there for observation, the medicine he needed, all that stuff, I came out of pocket $400. That would have been 40, 50,000 or more here. Medical care there is very, very inexpensive. Generally, in the Philippines, they have what's called pill health. Basically, it's Philippine healthcare. Kind of like Access healthcare that we have here. It's very basic services, but you pay a monthly fee and you have it for a year, and then you pay again for the next year. Most of them have it. It covers most basic services at the public hospitals. So, but yeah, you can literally go into any healthcare provider and pay out of pocket. It won't cost you anything really. See, Bob, has the Trump administration affected getting fiancé visas? Nope. They have no interest in the fiancé visa service. They've never mentioned it. I've never heard anything about it. Nothing, to my knowledge, has changed in regards to the fiancé visa service. The only thing that Trump administration has ever talked about is the H or B1 visa, the worker visa, whatever that one is. That's the one they've talked about. The K1 visa, as far as I know, nothing's changed. And I don't think they have any real interest in it, because you're not bringing multiple people here. You're not bringing people here that are taking jobs or whatever they complain about. You're bringing someone here that you're getting married to, and you're financially responsible for them. Part of the K1 visa process, you have to prove that you are financially set to pay for this person and take care of all their needs. So you're not eligible for any state-based assistance if you're bringing a girl here on a K1 visa. You have to prove that you are financially stable enough to take care of it. Now, it's 125% of the poverty line, which I think for last year was like if you made more than $23,000, that was like the minimum to bring someone here on a K1 visa. So if you make like $23,000 or more a year, you're good to go. See here, NLA from YouTube. A military veteran, if it matters for healthcare question. You get married, ooh, veteran. I don't think she gets your healthcare if you're a veteran versus active duty. I don't know how that one works off the top of my head. You would have to Google that. Does TRICARE apply in the Philippines? If you're at the base, it does. So if you're in Manila where the base is, or if you're in Angel City where the old base used to be, or can't think of where the other base is, but I know the main base is up in the Manila region of the Philippines. Yes, you could go on base with your ID and receive health care there. I do not believe there's any bases or any American TRICARE or medical services available in Cebu or Davao, where we do most of our tours too. But it is very cheap to fly to Manila to deal with that stuff, so it wouldn't be too hard. Mike V from YouTube. I think if there is a big age difference, you have a point, but if you and your wife don't have such a big age gap, you will be fine bringing her to your country. I don't think the age gap makes any difference to the Filipino girls. I know this is a very predominant question that I get from a lot of the guys. The age means nothing here. So Bill, who does all of the main IT work for AFA here, if you ever called in and needed tech support or something like that, usually you wind up talking to Bill most of the time. He is in his mid 50s, probably, I think. Mid to late 50s, possibly. His wife is, I think, now 30. And they've been married for a few years now, for 4 or 5 years at least. They have like 3 kids now, like a 4-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. She's like barely 30 now, if that. She might be 30 this year, and he's probably pushing 60. So there's really no big difference. And then me and my wife are only 5 years apart. One of the, oh god, I forgot his name. What's Marlon's husband's name? Robert. Robert, who if you call here and you talk to Robert in the tours department, he's in his late 60s. And Marlon, his wife, is like 42. So even them, they're still 20-something years apart. So, but his wife looks much younger than she really is. I actually was surprised when she told me what her age was, because I thought she was closer to my age than she is. So they look very young, so it's really not an issue. Like I said, my wife has several outfits that I've had to flat out ban her from wearing in public, because she literally looks like a teenager and she makes me look like a dirty old man, and that's just not cool. Steve, will there be a live cast on the fees for the K1 visa plus the cost for spousal medical fee, and if she needs letters from the police fee for the K1 visa? I don't think we've ever done a cast specifically on the visa. I've talked about it many times. I could literally spend an hour on a K1 visa. I could spend a couple hours on the K1 visa process. I'll give you the rundown. The application is, I think, $375. plus shipping. You got to mail it over there. There's a whole list of things that you have to include in the initial application. From there, once that gets approved, then you have to send a second package to the National Visa Center. They forward it over, but then you have to send additional information, which then has to go to the girl in the Philippines, and she has to take that with her to her embassy interview. The fee for the medical is like between $400 and $500 for the medical exam. In the Philippines, they're very weird. The medical exam and the embassy interview have to be 10 days apart. Every other country, you can go to your medical in the morning and get your interview done in the afternoon. In the Philippines, it's 10 days apart. I don't understand why, but okay. And this is where the annoying fees come in, because you have to send her to Manila, and where the hospital is that does the medical exam is on essentially Embassy Row. So you're gonna have to put her up in a hotel there for basically 10 to 12 nights. Hotels there are not that cheap. A closet size twin bedroom that my wife was in ran me about $40 a night for 12 nights. And then the embassy interview is roughly another $400 for that one. Then you have to do the CFO interview, the Commission of Philippines Overseas. That'll run you about $100. That interview is more important than the embassy interview, because if they don't approve her CFO interview and they do not give her her passport stamp, it doesn't matter if she has an American visa in her passport or not, they will not let her leave the country. So the CFO, Commission of Filipinos Overseas, that interview and that CFO stamp are more important than your embassy interview. Because without that, this whole process is kaput. The CFO, the Commission of Filipinos Overseas, was established years back to stop human trafficking of Filipinos overseas and to cut down on Filipinos who got jobs in other countries and then went and then never came back or were never heard from again. So they had to institute this to keep track of where they were all going, and now it's just kind of an annoyance. But yeah, my wife said the CFO interview was more invasive than the embassy interview. The embassy interview, she was in and out of there in like in an hour, she was in and out of the embassy. The CFO interview, she was there for like 4 hours, just waiting to get in. They talked to her for like half an hour, excuse me. And she had to sit through a class and sign a whole bunch of paperwork and tell them a whole bunch about me, and they asked a whole bunch of questions about me and where I live and all this other stuff. She said that interview was so much more in-depth than when she went to the embassy. They were so barely interested in her at the embassy, it was hilarious. So that's kind of the abridged version. So all in all, you're probably looking, if you don't use a lawyer and you do it all yourself, you're probably looking at about $1,500 in just the fees. Maybe closer to $2,000 with the hotel and all that stuff, because you'll have to obviously provide her money for food and things like that while she's there. So, you know, you're probably looking at about $1,500 to $2,000 just for the fees and the hotel and airfare. If you use a lawyer, anywhere from maybe $1,500 to $2,500 for the lawyer to do the paperwork. So you could be upwards of closer to $5,000 if you use a lawyer. I recommend using a lawyer unless you're very good at dealing with government paperwork. It takes a lot of the hassle out, because if anything is not correct, the lawyer has to fix it, and they have to make it right, and they have to get it all approved for you. So that's one of the benefits. So it is there. Those are your options, but that's kind of the abridged Philippine K-1 visa process. But like I said, the CFO interview was way more important than the embassy interview, and that was what I always found funny. So we got a bunch of guys on the chat line, so if you guys want to ask a question, it's *5 or 5-star, one of those things. I for years now still cannot remember which one it is. So let's see here. Glenn, I'm going to the Davao October social. Fantastic. What's the normal time frame for approval CR1 if you get married in the Philippines? Please, Glenn, don't do it. Just don't do it, Glenn. Do not get married in the Philippines. You are going to infinitely complicate your life. It is so much easier to bring her here on a K-1 visa, get married in the States, and then the following year, once you get her green card, go back and have a wedding in the Philippines for her family. It is so much easier. If you get married in the Philippines, you do not qualify for a K-1 visa. You have the CR1 visa, which is essentially a marriage visa. Minimum is about a year to get that approved. So if you have to come back, she stays there. You cannot bring her back during that process at all. And from what I understand, Bill did it. He got married there, but he was also working there for a good portion of the time. And so it was okay, but it still took, I think, a little over a year for them to get all the approvals for her to come back to the US with him. It infinitely complicates your life. It's so much easier to just get married here in the States and then go back and have a wedding there if that's really important to her. So when my wife and I got married, we got married in Vegas. I specifically picked the place in Vegas because they live streamed the video of us getting married live, and then it was on feedback on loop for 24 hours after that. So her entire family could basically log in on their phone. We sent them all the link. They clicked on the link, brought the video right up. They watched us get married live. I know they couldn't be here, but they got to see it live as it happened. And then anyone who couldn't watch it at that time was able to watch it throughout the day, and they watched it more than once from what I was told. So, you know, it's definitely, it's easier. Javier from Facebook. How do the women join the website? Are they recruited? No. We really do not actively recruit women. Most of the women who sign up are friends of friends. You know, one girl finds out about it or has a cousin who did it and Googles, you know, how to meet American men, and they come across our information for our local affiliates, and they call, and you know, they go to the office and they do their photo shoot, and they fill out all their paperwork, and they get all their information from them, and then they submit it and we put them on the site. But there's not a whole lot of active recruitment of women in the Philippines. A lot of these girls, and that's why I've always said this, when you sit at a table, do not ignore any of the girls, ever. Because guarantee you, half of those girls at that table are all friends. And the one girl got all the other girls to come join, and they all go together. When I went to the socials, the second time I went in the Philippines to a social, I went to the first one. The second one, I actually brought my Glenda with me. Again, we weren't engaged yet, but we got engaged the following night. I brought her with me to the second one. She knew about 15 girls in the social. She had no clue her friends who had been on AFA or signed up with AFA, didn't even know they were going to be there, walked in the room. There was one table. Every girl at this one table, she knew every one of them. And the table next to him, she knew a couple more. And some of the girls were girls that she had just gone to high school with. You know, some of them were friends of friends. One of them was her cousin, who didn't tell anyone in the family that she had joined the AFA service, because one of her friends got married to a nice American guy, and she decided to call and join because of that. So you'll be surprised, they all kind of know each other. So yeah, there's not a whole lot of recruitment in the Philippines. So they do this because they're looking for a nice guy, they're looking for a serious man, because in the Philippines, just like many other countries around the world, which is why women are very interested and willing to meet and date men outside of the country, is simply for the fact that the men there are not serious and they're not looking to get married. They want to play around and be stupid, and these girls have zero interest in dealing with that whatsoever. So that is essentially the main reason. And again, in the Philippines, most of their parents have a pretty big age gap. Like I said, my wife's mother and father are 20-something years apart. So my wife was totally fine with meeting an American or a foreign guy that was 20 to 30 years older than her, and what she was expecting. She actually was not expecting to meet someone who was only a couple years older than her. And like I said, her first initial issue with me was she thought I wasn't old enough. So go figure, right? And you can see some very lovely ladies on the video right now. I'll tell you right now, these girls have definitely stepped up their their outfit game since I was in the Philippines, because some of these outfits definitely are not homemade anymore. I remember one of the social I went to, there were several girls had very, very beautiful outfits, dresses on, but after talking to them, come to find out their auntie or mom or friend made the dress for them. So some of these dresses that are like total one-offs in the group are actually homemade. And let me tell you, some of the aunties, they are some A1 seamstresses. I'll tell you that right now. One of my wife's aunts, she makes suits for businessmen in Davao. I actually, when we go back, it's one of the things I'm going to have her make me a couple of nice suits so I can bring them home. But yeah, no, so a lot of these girls, they're very industrious. You know, a lot of the girls, you'll see them and this will be like the fanciest dress that they own. Because, and this is one of the misconceptions, when you go on the website and you see some of these photos and then you go and you meet these girls in person and you're like, oh, that's not her, it's fake. And like, no, it's her. But they don't dress like this every day. They are not all dolled up like what you're seeing on a daily basis. In the Philippines, jeans and t-shirts and flip-flops is like the normal for everybody. Yes, some of the girls, they wear cute skirts and things like that, but the Philippines is a very laid-back country. They are not a dress-up everyday country. They dress very fashionable. They're all about fashion, the girls there. My wife's I tease my wife relentlessly about her fashion, because she's like, oh, it's fashion, it's fashion. I'm like, I don't understand fashion, honey. I wear shorts and t-shirts year round. I don't understand your fashion. But the girls there, they love fashion. They love all that stuff. As you can see, you know, they're all wearing, you know, the newest fashions. And oh, this is a different game. I haven't seen that one before. Let's find out what that game was. Let's see here. All right, guys, don't forget, if you're on the website, it's loveme.com/live. You can ask your questions right above the video. If not, or you're on our chat line, feel free to hit *5 or 5-star, and I will gladly bring you on and you can ask your question live. Even if you have questions that I've gone over already and you still want more information, don't hesitate to ask. I'll go back in depth on them. Got to get to the gratuitous salesy part of the show here. Hold on. Let's go to the home page here. It's hard to get around on the AFA website. Have you ever noticed? There's a lot of really hot girls on the top here. It's hard to focus on what you're trying to do. So let's hit up the upcoming seminars. So we got a couple of new cities here that I have not seen us go to. Really? We're going to Anchorage, Alaska? Holy cow. Can I go to that one? I want to go to Alaska. Let's see here. Upcoming seminar dates. Nashville, Tennessee, August 4th. Louisville, Kentucky, August 5th. Cleveland, Ohio, August 18th. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, August 19th. September, the 1st of September, Anchorage, Alaska. September 8th, Chicago, Illinois. That'll be a Bud seminar, guaranteed right there, because Bud's from Chicago. Milwaukee, Wisconsin, September 9th. Austin, Texas, September 22nd. San Antonio, Texas, September 23rd. Let's see, October, Boston on the 13th of October, Montreal, Canada on the 14th of October, Phoenix, Arizona on October 27th, Las Vegas, October 28th. I'll be at the Phoenix, Arizona one because, you know, it's right down the street from me. November, Seattle, Washington, October 3rd, Portland, November 4th, San Jose, November 17th, and you guys can find all of this on the AFA homepage. There's a section right here on the left-hand side that says upcoming free seminar dates. There are a couple really awesome, there you go, there's the seminar list. I want to do the Alaska one. Maybe I can talk John into that one. But the nice thing about seminars is you get some really, really amazing benefits to going to a seminar. One, you get a chance to talk with either John and his wife or Bud, who does a lot of the Ukraine tours. Bud has been here for a bazillion years. He does the Monday night calls about the Ukraine. There's some really awesome seminar-only tour discounts that you can only get by attending one of these seminars. It helps offset a little bit of the cost because you've traveled to come see us, so we give you some benefits. You also get a whole bunch of informational packets and some things that some of the other guys aren't going to get unless they sign up for a tour. You'll actually be able to get some of that stuff before you've signed up for your tour. Also, there's some discounts if you make a deposit at the seminar. You know, put your deposit down for open deposit down for a tour. There's some additional benefits that you can get. Other than that too, you get to meet people like Bud and Anna, John and his wife Tanya, and people from all over the country who have used the service and gotten married stop by these seminars all the time for the different cities around the country that they live in, and you get a chance to actually talk to them and hear their stories. So there's a lot of cool features of going to these, and it's completely free. Come to the seminar. There's usually lunch, snacks, drinks. So it's definitely a lot of information. It's a 4-hour seminar. You don't have to stay the whole time, but you'll learn a lot, and usually you'll be there for a couple hours after that asking a million questions. So there's a lot of benefits to it. Let's hit up the upcoming tour dates. We'll focus on Asia, obviously. Let's see here. Come on, page load. Alrighty, so coming up in August 23rd, Cebu, Philippines. Let's see, August 30th, Thailand, Bangkok, Thailand. October 4th, Davao. And then rounding out the year, November 22nd, the Thanksgiving holiday, Shenzhen, China. I'll tell you right now, Shenzhen is a really, really cool city. If you've never been to China, it's across you know, you fly into Hong Kong, you cross the border, you're in Shenzhen. It is the knockoff capital of the world. Also, it's like the manufacturing capital of the world. Everything made in China, made in Shenzhen. There's a whole section of the north part of the city of Shenzhen that is nothing but manufacturing. The whole northern part of that city. It's where everything is made. So it's kind of a cool thing. If you watch any amount of YouTube and your favorite YouTuber has a silver or gold play button, that silver gold play button was made in Guangdong, China, which is just north of the city of Shenzhen. It's made in a manufacturing facility there. I think it's called Tiger something or other manufacturing. They make the silver and gold play buttons for YouTube. So ask me how I know that, because I saw a YouTube video about it. So a lot of interesting information there. I think one of these days we will have to do a K1 visa video or show, just because that's a lot of questions about that, and there's so much information there. Okay, wow, you guys really, hold on, I gotta scroll down a little bit to get back to where all these new questions started. All right, Glenn, I'm going to the Davao October social. What's the normal time? Oh wait, I already answered that one. Moving along. Javier, no, already answered that one. Okay. Mohammed, I am from Pakistan, hometown Mardan. I say you meet to. Okay, moving along. Gotta love those. Block IP, and you're gone. Let's see here. Patrick, Greg, just to let you know that I'm now taking 6 to 8 months for the fiance visa, where I am working on getting my fiance to come here from Davao, and we are working with Helen from Patrick. Oh, hey Patrick. I think I've talked to you before. Yeah, it can take longer. 3 to 6 months is the normal, but depending on the time of year when you process your fiance visa, it can take longer. So it is what it is. I've heard people take over 9 months to get a fiance visa. I've also seen people literally have it done and the girl here in like 3 months flat. So it kind of varies depending on what part of the country you're in and which facility processes your paperwork. So it's kind of a crapshoot on that. Dave, where do you recommend between Davao or Cebu? What is the difference between the ladies there? None. No. And this is kind of what I see as the difference between the two cities. In Davao, you see girls with a much more Spanish look. You see more European features are a little more predominant in Davao, and in Cebu you see a little bit more of the Chinese facial features are more prominent. That's kind of the major difference I've noticed, but again, there's a whole plethora of all beauties of girls in each city, so you can't really go wrong. It just depends on, you know, where the girls in your hot list seem to clump from. If you look at your hot list and most of them are from Cebu, then go to Cebu. If you look at your hot list and most of the girls that you've liked and favorited are from Davao, go to Davao. The other thing too is what time of year can you travel? If you're looking at being able to travel and it's the Davao tour, well, then just go to Davao. If you're looking at the time of the year and it's the time of the Cebu tour, then go Cebu. You can't go wrong with either city, honestly. You're going to find utterly beautiful Filipinas in both cities, you know, from very European looking to very Chinese looking. You'll find the whole gambit, from very light-skinned girls to girls with darker skin. You're going to find the whole gambit in the Philippines. If you can see right here, look at the video here. They all kind of have a little bit different. So here, so a couple of these girls have much more European look. A couple of those girls had very Chinese features. You're going to find the whole gambit there. The Philippines is kind of a 50-50 mashup of Spanish and Chinese. The Spaniards owned the Philippines for a very, very long time. The Chinese were in the Philippines, you know, for the history of the world. They've been there. So you have a very solid mix of the two cultures and the two facial features. My wife looks much more Spanish looking than she does Chinese. But hilariously enough, her youngest sister looks very Chinese and totally looks like she's not even related to my wife. So there you go, same family, totally two different facial features. And my wife's whole family is kind of like that. They all are very varied looking. Most of them, if you didn't know they were related, you wouldn't think they were all from the same family. So let's see here. Gentleman from the 210 area code, how are you tonight? 210 area code, how are you? Are you there?
Hello?
Hey, how are you?
Yes. Yes. I'm planning to go to Davao in October. I just wondered how much money should I take as far as spending money?
Well,
or should I convert it to pesos?
Okay, so rule of thumb, travel with American money. American money is going to be accepted in every major city around the world. You're not always, I know when I've been in layovers in Japan and layovers in South Korea, they will accept American bills. They will give you change back in their money, which is fine. Travel with American money. The bulk of your money should be new American $100 bills, not the old ones, the new ones. Get nice, crisp, new $100 bills from the bank. When I went to the Philippines, I was there for the last trip I was there for 2 weeks. When I got engaged to my wife, I brought about $3,000 with me in cash. There is safe in the hotel. You do not have to worry. I ate out 3 times a day. I bought my wife all kinds of stuff. We went and did all kinds of stuff. I was not penny pinching my money in any way, shape, or form. I still came home with probably about $1,200 in cash. So I only spent about $1,800 and I was there for, I think, 17 days. So it's very inexpensive to eat there. It's not, you know, very expensive to go. Cab rides like across the city might cost you $2 or $3 at the most. So it's a very inexpensive country, but, you know, rule of thumb, you know, you're going to want about $1,000 per week is kind of a good estimate for the Philippines. Now, if you're going during the tour, and if you want to go on the excursions, like the things you're seeing on the video where we go island hopping and that kind of stuff, for you to go on all 4 of the excursions in either city and bring a young lady with you for each one, it's going to roughly run you about $800 to $1,000 for all of that, for all the different excursions. And you don't have to go on all of them. You can pick and choose the ones you're interested in. But if you go to every one of the excursions and you bring a young lady with you each time, you're going to run about $1,000 for that. So, you know, $3,000 for 2 weeks, $1,000 for the excursions, $2,000, $1,000 for each week. You should be good to go there. Also, you can use Western Union to wire yourself money at any time. You go on your Western Union app, put in your debit card, send yourself the money from your bank to the Philippines, and go to the Western Union and get money that way. There are banks there. You can just make sure you let your bank or your credit card company know where you're going to be and what time frame you're going to be there. Your debit cards will work. Your credit cards will work. They're not accepted most places, but like major hotels and the major malls, you can use them. I know when I purchased my wife's engagement ring, I used a credit card at the mall, at the jewelry store at the mall, and it went through, no issues whatsoever. I got a text message from the bank about 2 hours later just to confirm that I did make the purchase. But you know, other than that, you know, it's very easy to use your cards there, but it's easier to have cash. Usually I would, when I go, I exchange $100 at LAX, and I take $100 American and exchange it for, it's anywhere from about 4,500 to 5,000 pesos to for $100. This way, when we get to the airport, I have cash for the cab, I have cash for, you know, drinks at the airport, or to get us some food real quick when we get there. But I usually go to the malls, and our staff there will tell you which is the best places to get the best rates. I know if you're going to Davao, I forget the name of the mall, but not the G Mall that's right by the office, but it's not much further away, but they have a money changer there that I found the best rates at. There were a couple of days where I was getting like 51 or 52 peso to the dollar. So you can get some really amazing exchange rates. And when you catch those exchange rates that day, if the exchange rate's really, really good, then exchange more money, because the next day it might drop down to like 47 peso to the dollar. So if like one day is an amazing exchange rate, then cash out, you know, a couple $100 that day and change it over, because that's a great rate. Anything above 50 is a fantastic rate. But you know, roughly $1,000 per week and an extra $1,000 for the excursions is probably your best bet.
Okay. Thank you.
Not a problem. Thank you much. All right, mute, uncheck. Let's go back here. All right, guys, remember, if you are on the chat line or watching our webcast at loveme.com/live, question box right above the video, you can ask your question. Or if you're on our conference call line, *5 or 5-star or one of those things. And we're getting down to the end of the show here, so I will kind of just recap. Again, I want to make sure you guys understand kind of the benefits of the seminars and what you can get from them. There's a whole lot of really awesome information that comes with a seminar. You get in front of John or Bud or Anna, and they're a wealth of knowledge for all the questions you could have. And a lot of times the same questions you have are the same questions the other guys in the room have, so they may ask a good chunk of those questions for you. And if you're watching right now on the video cast, there's the map of all the upcoming seminar dates and cities all over the country. So we're literally spanning the country, going to Alaska, which John, I know he's over there. John, I want to do the Alaska seminar. There's also a Montreal, Canada seminar, so that's kind of cool. We're definitely branching out of the US. So it looks like the Florida dates have passed, the California one passed, a couple of the Midwest ones passed already. But I know the guys who have gone to these, a lot of the guys, you know, that I've talked to that have been to a seminar, they really always say how beneficial it is and how much they got out of it. And you know, the discounts that you can only get there, they're worth every penny to travel to some of these. And a lot of these places, we pick them very strategically because there's a lot of cities around there that anyone can drive to within a couple of hours for a lot of other cities. So we try to hit some of the hottest spots that we know a lot of guys can get to very easily. So with that said, guys, I will wrap it up for this month. We will be back next month on, I don't know, July, August, let's see. I think my calendar's not cooperating. August 1st, Wednesday, August 1st will be our next show. And remember, if you want to see this show back to weekly or even potentially bi-weekly, send an email to John at loveme.com, or call him and tell him, John, Greg needs to be on the show more often. Come on, guy. All right, guys, I really appreciate you being with me each and every month. Thank you guys for calling in. Thank you to all the guys that sent in your chat questions. Really appreciate it. I love centering the show on what you guys want to hear about and what interests you the most, because if not, you're stuck listening to whatever I feel like talking about. So, all right, guys, I thank you so much. We'll be back next month, same bat channel, same bat time. Have a good night.